Well, it is the second day of semifinals here in Shanghai. I am joined right now by Froskurinn with coverage presented by Mobalytics to discuss League of Legends Worlds and so much more. What do you think of Worlds so far?
It's probably been the most entertaining Worlds that we've ever had. I can't remember the last time we had this many best of fives go the distance and this explosive of gameplay.
Yeah. Is that because the gap is closing?
I actually said on Worlds tonight that I actually believe the gap is closing, but I thought it was more so to do with the meta and how it's really shifted, and that when we're so dependent on kind of these big 5v5 team fights, at least that 90% of the teams are, that games are going to go to that 50-50 coin flip, and we're going to see a smaller disparity between the regions.
Now, is it good for League of Legends if games are going to 50-50 coin flips?
I think it's good for an audience's point of view. I mean, this is a very different meta than the years of old where, you had the lane swap and more of the intricacies on what teams could do. There still is definitely a lot of really cool strategy that's happening, especially in the 10 ban system. But it is a very different beast than it once was, of the Season 3s and Season 4s.
Yeah. Okay, so I interviewed Kobe, and I asked him what he thought of the Worlds games, and he was like, there were a lot of them. And so I said, all right, if you added them all together and you gave them a cumulative score, what would it be? And he said 7.4.
Out of 10?
Out of 10. And then Shock said, okay, from an entertainment perspective, because she didn't know what Kobe was basing it on, she said it was an 8.5. Interviewed Azale, he gave it a 9. So we're trending upwards. What will you give it?
If it's an entertainment scale, I think you have to go a solid 10. I mean, we had Misfits take SKT to Game 5. We had RNG take SKT to Game 5. Cloud9 and Europe both made great showing. I mean, we had the Miracle Fnatic run. We have EDG almost make the Miracle run. Cloud9 had a great performance in quarterfinals. So from a purely entertainment standing, I don't think we get any higher from here.
I feel like North American fans could say it could get a little higher, right? I mean, the Cloud9 game was nice, but would have been nicer if they made it to semifinals. What as the China expert, what do you think of China at this event?
For me, it was really the return to glory for China. We had the collapse in 2015. 2016 was really the rebuilding of China. And 2017 is the return to glory for China. So, we had a decent MSI, fell down to G2. EDG made a strong showing and a case for themselves in week 2 of groups. Both the other 2 Chinese seeds made out number 1 in their groups, taking down Korean teams as well as 2 number 1 seeds and Flash Wolves as well as TSM. So I think so far China has reclaimed the spot as number 2 region in the world. That said, the gap is closing, so I don't think it's as big between all of the regions stacked up.
Now we are filming this sort of at the beginning of the match today, but you were not on the analyst desk. But there was a solid Samsung lineup of predictions across the analyst desk. This interview will be seen after the match is already done, so this is your chance to stand out and make a different prediction if you'd like to.
So going into it, I know that a lot of the casters consoled me for what to think about Team WE. I will say that on stage and behind stage, it is very heavily Samsung focused. I feel to be the only person who actually really believes in Team WE. I still didn't predict them to win the series, but I thought it would be very close. I believe in my predictions this morning with Deficio. I was saying it's going to be a 3-1, and I don't know if that's Samsung or Team WE. I think it's like 60% Samsung, 40% WE, but just the nature of these teams, I don't think we'll go to 5 games because they are so focused on their 5v5, and I felt that it would come down exclusively to execution. That this is going to be one of the few series where you look at draft phase and you're like, okay, we can predict the winner from here because these teams are so good at executing their precise win conditions because they are very clean. It's not going to be like an RNG where they have a terrible draft and get a Vayne game but just outplay themselves. WE and Samsung just aren't really those teams.
Also talking to some of the Western personalities, I've been asking them how they've been enjoying Worlds, and they like it a lot. They've had a good time in China. It's getting a little long for them. A lot of them have been here for a month or even longer, and so they're like, I kind of miss home. What about you? Because, again, you are China Girl, I think. Or what is your Reddit name?
That Chinese fangirl.
Yeah. You're that Chinese fangirl. So being here in China and also seeing China teams do so well, how's the outside of the game, outside of the work stuff going for you?
I always really love Shanghai. Guangzhou is my other second favorite city. Okay. I've been to 6 Chinese cities before, and I think I've spent maybe a collective 6-7 months in China over the last 3 years. I love Shanghai, but Beijing is beautiful, but it's not really my speed. Yeah. It's very spread out.
All right. Well, I will not be able to enjoy Beijing. I'm ducking out tomorrow, so I'm glad we could talk. But trying to think of what else. Oh, yeah. I mean, how are things going in your life and sort of outside of even Worlds? Do you have any plans after Worlds or any trips or anything?
I'm going to be taking a trip to North America. I really want to go to Disneyland. Okay. I feel like I never get to say that.
I mean, there's Shanghai Disneyland. A bunch of people went off and did that this week.
I definitely did that. I rode the Tron ride like 6 times. Yeah. You definitely messed up.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, no, just getting ready for everything next year. 2018, a lot of changes.
Yeah. I mean, off season is interesting for a lot of people because sometimes it's time for break and stuff. But I know that sort of working with one of the newer regions like you are, I'm sure that there's just a ton of work to be done.
Yeah, so I can't speak too in-depth about the changes that will be happening in 2018, but I don't really get an off-season. I think I'm going to take a vacation for about a week afterwards, and then I'm heading directly to revamp everything about the English LPL broadcast. It will be completely different next year.
Will still be in English.
It'll definitely be in English.
So not completely different. Like the language is still the same.
Yes, but we'll be bringing in a translator, so we'll have someone who can translate live during casts, and hopefully a lot more features and goodies.
Yeah. Nice. Are you the translator?
No, but I will be eventually.
Okay. Eventually.
That's the goal. Okay. I'm going to be learning or taking very extensive Mandarin courses.
What is your percentage proficiency in Mandarin at the moment?
I can definitely tell you that I love you.
Okay. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people I'm sure that would love to hear that from you. Speaking of that, I feel like, we did an interview last year at IEM where we talked for a while. I was off camera. It was a little feature we did at Yahoo, but where I was off camera and kind of talking about your progress. And it was interesting because I think you went from somebody who was, a lot of fans were like, oh, that girl, that Chinese fangirl, to someone that's like, all right, Froskurinn, she's okay, whatever. I don't hate it when she's casting. To now, this Worlds, I feel like are getting a lot of love and a lot of attention from the fans, and especially from the Chinese fans here who, people walk past Shocks here, they're like, who's that? And they're rushing towards you. So what has it been like to sort of experience this, big sort of change of heart from some of the English fans and also just a lot of support from the Chinese fans?
Speaking to the Chinese fans first, it was very surreal because we cast the LPL English in a studio, so we cast them away from crowds. In Oceania, we almost never have interaction with any sort of crowd. The only one is for OPL, they would do a finals and it would be a live broadcast, but because it would always correspond with the LPL days, it would be the Oceanic Australian casters would go and cast the OPL when it was a split broadcast, and I would cast the LPL that day. So I have never interacted with fans outside of my IEM appearance or my international appearance. When I got to do the LPL finals last year in spring, I believe, we went to Guangzhou, and it was the first time, oh, this is so surreal. We went to an arcade at a mall completely away from the venue, and I was with Fish and Rusty, and we were actually stopped by fans to take pictures with me because they knew who I was.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was the first time that had ever happened to me, and I thought it was like the most surreal experience. So it's been incredible, and I love the Chinese fans, and I try to interact with them as much as possible, but the language barrier does make it difficult. In terms of the shift of community perception with the North American or the Western fans, I kind of love the spot that we're at right now because I find that the community is like pretty cheeky and it almost feels like an inside snide thing. Like anytime, what was it? There was an image that came down during Ignar's Leona game. It was like last time Leona was played, it was Yellow Star that did it in the EULCS, and I was like, there's a goodie but an oldie. So
that's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to say? I know we have to rush you back just in case something goes wrong with the broadcast and you're needed to rush out there and tell people you love them in Mandarin. Is there anything that you would like to say to any of the fans?
Ooh, I will say that I love them in Mandarin, so it's, forgive my pronunciation, it's fucking awful.
Okay.
Wa'aini.
Okay.
So there you go, Travis. I know that's the one you got to store in there.
Yeah. I need that. I will use that later on. Next time when I come to China. Very, very good. Well, thank you so much for the interview. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the new exciting stuff that is happening next year with the English broadcast. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things Worlds right here on my YouTube channel. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I actually just got back to the hotel after going to the venue for some interviews, and I'm actually just checking out the new Mobalytics esports site. That's right. You've heard me talk to you about how they help you figure out your strengths and weaknesses, but they've just launched this new thing for Worlds. There's so much functionality. Let me tell you about it. It's got schedules for the games, and I know a lot of you hate spoilers. There's actually a spoiler tag that changes the functionality of the site to hide results, etc. So if that's what you're interested in, you've got that. There are pre-game analytics and analysis for matches before they even start. There are post-game breakdowns, builds, and more advanced stats, including analytics using Mobalytics' specific formula. There's even a section dedicated to champions themselves. In fact, you can search specifically for your favorite player, track their games, view heat maps, read through their champions, and see more. And finally, by the way, if watching these videos is too taxing, Mobalytics actually has transcribed many of my world interviews for your reading pleasure. So be sure to check it out. It's got all sorts of cool stuff on it. Explore the site. It's esports.mobalytics.gg. And by the way, thanks for watching this video. You can actually sign up for their service if you want to get better at League of Legends over at mobalytics.gg/Travis.